Hey, do you know anybody else who eats? Like, you know anybody else who breathes air? Really? Wow, what a small world. Well, we sell air. Practically, food's next best thing. What is going on, eaters and feeders? My name is Casey Cochran, proud founder of Florida's highest rated meal prep company. And in this episode, I'm going to discuss my top 5 reasons for starting a meal prep business. I know a lot of people out there right now are looking to start a business. They might be considering getting into something that's food related. And personally, I think the meal prep model is great. We're not even from the food industry. My business partner and I, when we started, we had no experience in the food industry aside from me bartending when I was in my 20s. We had no connections, we had no funding, and that's probably one of my favorite reasons for starting a meal prep company is we were able to do it without any funding. But that's not even going to be one of the reasons that I discuss today. But before we get started, if this is your first time to my channel, welcome. I discuss business, specifically some of my experiences starting and growing Florida's highest rated meal prep company, but also general entrepreneur stuff. Not only stuff that would apply to all businesses, but also some of the entrepreneur stuff, some of the mindset stuff I discuss would probably be good for just about anybody. I want to make sure that if this is your first time to my channel, that you have hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any new videos. Also, make sure that alert notification is on, because not only do I post weekly, but I also sporadically get on live whenever the mood strikes me, and I don't want you missing out on any of that because I love feedback and questions when I go live. A lot of times it's just a thought that comes to my head, and if I'm able to get some immediate feedback and start a discussion, it's all the better. So I've got a bunch of reasons for you to not miss any of my new videos. So I want to make sure you've subscribed, you've hit that alert bell, and let's get into the episode.
Welcome to our channel where we go behind the scenes of our meal plan company Fit Food Fresh and other local businesses across South Florida. Make sure you hit the subscribe and alerts so you never miss a video, and hit us with any questions or suggestions.
All right, so let's get right into it. Reason number 1 why I love the meal prep model and why I think it's one of the best startups is you sell your product before you purchase your product. You collect orders the week prior for food that you'll then produce, deliver, and you're able to collect that money before you have to outlay the money for the supplies. And that's what's beautiful. So if you do it the right way, you can actually be profitable your first week. We were profitable not knowing anything about what we were doing. We were able to be profitable our very first week because, again, we get the money in advance. We're not buying anything that's going to be a potential loss or it's going to potentially expire before we're able to sell it. So it mitigates a lot of the risks that are otherwise ubiquitous in the food industry, right? I can't stress enough how crucial it is and how rare it is in so many businesses. If you think about it, it's very rare to be able to collect money before you provide the service or before you purchase the goods, right? Restaurants can't wait for you to order that steak to run out to the store, buy the steak, throw it on the grill, and bring it to your table, right? So this is a huge advantage. And when you're starting off, any money that you don't have to outlay, any money that you don't have to risk is a major benefit, right? Now, another reason is residuals. I should have prefaced the first reason with this little tidbit, and I've mentioned this before. My entrepreneurial education started with Robert Kiyosaki, with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant, and a number of his other books. Those are really the first business books that I started with, and Robert Kiyosaki, for those of you who don't know, he preaches real estate, number 1, and investments. He likes things that are intangible or real estate, because real estate can't be stolen. You don't have to ship it. Aside from putting insurance on it and some other risks, it's still a pretty good investment from his perspective, but obviously it takes a lot of money. He also likes investing in stocks and bonds and mutual funds and things like that, because again, someone can't steal that. You don't have to ship it. It's not something that expires. And all of these other reasons that he gives for picking where you invest and what kind of businesses you get into, all of them would probably be the opposite of what the food industry is. And in fact, when we first started, I was very reluctant to get into the food industry because the only thing I knew was food is definitely tangible. You have to ship it. You have to store it. It expires. It's subjective. That person loves it. That person hates it. And there's all these headaches that get into food, right? But what I love about this business and what really convinced me to get into it was not only the fact that, as I mentioned, you get the money ahead of the production and purchasing the materials, for the most part at least, but it's also residual based. What's beautiful about residual is there's so much more value associated to that customer. Their LTV potential could be so much larger. Another thing that's great about residuals is as long as you're maintaining residuals and you're keeping those customers happy, you don't have to sell somebody new this week to bring in money. If I'm selling mortgages, when I stop selling mortgages, money stops coming in. There's no residuals. If I sell tires or, you name it, most products, there's not a residual attached to it. Even restaurants. Restaurant can open up this week and have 1,000 people come through their doors over the week, and not one of those people returns next week. So they now have to make sure they have 1,000 new people to replace those people who came back and those people who didn't come back, right? So I look at that as exhaustive. You have to continually hunt and sell and close and go through the whole sales process. Whereas with residual, a subscription model where someone keeps purchasing from you over and over and over again, not only are you able to extend their LTV, which is the lifetime value of that customer, you're able to get more money out of them from that one ad that attracted them, that one sales pitch that closed them. And all you have to do is maintain the relationship, right? They're going to keep eating every day, every week. So there's a strong reason for them to keep coming back to you as long as you treat them right. And what else is you're able to absorb that initial cost of hunting them down, the marketing cost, the cost to have a salesman show up and call them, all those costs that are associated with initially getting that person to start spending money with you. That actually becomes a less and less part of the overall equation, because that's a one-time cost, unless you're paying to remarket to them if they lost, but if you lost them. But that could be argued to be a completely different sales cycle itself. But the idea is, if you paid, let's say you paid $10 for the marketing to get this one person on the phone, and then you have whatever the commission is or whatever your sales structure is, you pay them hourly or whatever else. Let's say that was another, let's say we figure out the number on that is like another, I don't know, $30 or something between their hourly and whatever you give them for commission. We're at a round number of $40. And this number means nothing other than I want to get the concept of this is a static number. Now, if that person's on the business, on your service for 1 week, you make a certain amount of money, and hopefully you're able to cover that cost of bringing them on. Now, if they're on for 2 weeks, now you've made twice as much money. Absorbing that $40 cost, the ratio of what you've brought in versus what you put out, it's going down a bit, right? Now, 10 weeks, now 10 months, now 3 years. Having that relationship maintained where you continually get that trickle of money makes it so much easier to not only grow your company, because every addition that you're making is compounding that residual, basically. Well, maybe not compounding, but the effort is being compounded because you have that reward from your effort, that result from your effort that's going to continually grow as you build onto it. But it also makes it easier for you to predict and budget your finances in the future. Plus, I love businesses that if you believe in what you do, the service you provide, whether it's food or whatever it is, it doesn't even have to just be the meal prep business. I love having something that gives you an excuse to have a relationship with that customer. If they're only using your product once in a while, like if you're, not to beat up mortgage companies, but I used to, I had my mortgage license. If you sell someone a mortgage, there's not a whole lot of relationship that you can build. Without that relationship, it's hard to get a referral. You're just going to be the mortgage guy. And if nobody comes up asking about a mortgage and who to get a mortgage from in the immediate future, you're going to be out of sight, out of mind. Whereas with this business, getting residuals or getting referrals is way easier. So these are actually a couple of reasons that are probably snuck into there, but we've got, again, just the refresher of the two so far. It's getting money up front before you have to put anything out, and the residual aspect. Now, number 3, and these probably aren't in the best order, but number 3 would be the fact that everyone is a potential customer. Everyone eats, right? Everyone eats probably several times a day, every single week, rain or shine, right? Since everyone's a potential customer, everyone you bump into and interact with is probably going to be interested in hearing about what you do and is probably going to be pretty likely to use your service. So it makes it easier to grow this, especially by word of mouth. As I just mentioned before, referrals from the residuals. You start these relationships with people. They're on your service. They obviously believe in it. They keep coming back. Those sound like great people to ask for referrals because they're obviously happy with the product or the service that you're providing them. And you can easily ask them, hey, do you know anybody else who eats? Like, you know anybody else who breathes air? Really? Wow, what a small world. Well, we sell air. Practically, food's next best thing. I mean, I guess you need air and water before that, and then food. Was it 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food, something like that. Don't let people go 3 weeks without delicious food. And you're really selling time and convenience. And that customer of yours is probably appreciating that more than, like, the product itself is food, right? That's what it seems like, but it's really convenience because the restaurant has food. But the reason people aren't going back to the restaurant for 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, like they potentially would be using your meal prep company, is it's not convenient. So really you're selling convenience. On top of the food, you're making these people's lives better. You're allowing them to do things like, spend more time with their kids, help them out with homework or whatever, clean up around the house, hit the gym more often, just do whatever they want, sleep in. I don't know what they want to do with their time, but you're giving them more than just a meal on a plate. You're selling them time. So the value that you're able to really, you're really able to hit home and resonate that value with them. And that's something that I can't think of a lot of products that do that. And on top of, the other reasons that I've laid out and I'm going to continue to lay out. And I have so many more. I actually had a list of 20 and I had to strip some of them down. Now moving on to number 4, but I'm going to make this one, let's put an asterisk by it and I'll give you 2 more after this, even though I said it was just going to be 5. I really want to put this one in, but it's also not gonna age well. Hopefully we'll be out of this whole global catastrophe thing that we've got going on. So hopefully this one won't be as imperative, but right now I think it deserves being in the top 5. And that is the fact that the meal prep business is basically economy proof and shutdown proof. It's an essential business. It has to continue operating. We're not relying on people walking into our establishment because you can either offer delivery, which no one would be walking into your establishment. We offer pickup, but not all meal prep companies do. But that's not the same as a restaurant. So while restaurants were being shut down and now they're messing around with their occupancy and you have to have hand sanitizer and masks and all this other stuff everywhere for people to come into your business, and people are afraid to come in because they're afraid of the crowds and the disinfecting the tables and all that has to be done between every interaction, and even registers have to be disinfected and wiped down. That's a kind of a scary experience. It's not pleasant. What's beautiful about the meal prep business is we never shut down. We were never hindered by anything. We delivered every single week, twice a week. We made every single delivery, never shut down, nothing changed. We were an essential business. We also saw an influx when this first started in March, when it started really getting serious here, at least in Florida. There was a major influx of people who were jumping on our service for the first time ever, never been on a meal prep company before, because all of a sudden shopping became a very scary thing. Aside from the convenience aspect and the health aspect and everything that, for years prior has been the reason for getting people on, it became more than just convenience of avoiding the shopping market. A lot of people who are high risk, you're actually providing a lifeline to them in a lot of ways. So looking at the fact that people, as I mentioned before, everyone eats, people have to continue eating. Granted, there will be some people who are negatively impacted by a downed economy, but there's always going to be people who aren't. And people are always going to be looking to, and if you really look at it, and if you were to do the math with people, and I know it's not always easy to have someone's bandwidth long enough to actually go through what shopping costs them, how much time it really costs them when they're making their own food. If they're not making their own food, they're paying a premium, getting it from a restaurant or wherever they're getting it. So it's hard to maybe sell them on that. But the value that you're providing is not just the convenience. This is actually, for people to do the math, it's actually a more affordable route in many cases than buying your own food and cooking your own food. And we go right back to the convenience aspect. You're not having to do that. Now, again, there will be some people who will have to leave the meal prep company, or they don't have the finances for the meal prep company. But like I said, As long as there are people working, there are people who want this done for them. So I know plenty of meal prep companies who have only grown through this. I know some who have started in the midst of this and have grown. I know some who were smaller before this all, I don't want to say too many words because I'm afraid of what YouTube's going to flag me for, but before this event started, this crazy 2020, they were smaller than they are today. That means they've literally grown through this entire event. And one is more than doubled. I think they went into it at 40, and I want to say they said they were over 100 now. So despite all this other stuff that you're seeing going on and all these other businesses that are done, they're being eviscerated. It's very sad, it's very scary, but we're talking about the realities of the situation. If you're looking to get into something that has a lot of reasons to be expected to grow, yeah, this is the business. So number 5, or maybe we'll call this one 4.5, I don't know. You don't have to be huge to be profitable. Doing some really simple math. I actually know, I'm not going to say this person's name, but I know a meal prep company, and they're very small. I think it's 2, maybe 3 people involved in the whole thing. I think their profit is, this is one of the reasons I don't want to say anything, but I think their profit is somewhere around $3 a meal. So they're actually making like close to less than 6 figures, but probably over $80,000 a year, and they operate 3 days a week. Everyone who works there, the person who owns it, this is all they do. They just work 3 days a week, do whatever they want. The other 2 people are part-time, and they have full-time jobs. So, and what else is beautiful? Man, this is another reason I'm going to sneak in there. You can have part-time workers who have full-time jobs somewhere else. Right now, anyone in the food industry, they're obviously, cooks and chefs. They're looking for jobs, so you'd be able to employ them. I'm definitely sneaking in more reasons. Sorry, but I'm sure you appreciate it. And it's easy to find people who are working at any time with this business. Like, you could do this production in the middle of the night. You can do this production, in a restaurant kitchen when the kitchen's closed, or a catering company, or a shared rental space. You can get much cheaper time if you're like, hey, not to say you want to work overnight, but like, that's what's beautiful about this. It's not a restaurant where people are walking in and saying, hey, I need food right now. I'm at a table ready to eat. These are people putting the order in advance. Again, we're going back to reason number 1. And we are producing this on our schedule, truncating the production. It's much more efficient. Man, look at all these reasons. And then delivering it out on a schedule. Makes it a lot easier to slip that in with other projects that are going on. And like I said, truncating a week's worth of sales down to 2 or 3 days worth of production. Now that's obviously going to grow as the business grows, but to be making a little bit shy of 6 figures, working 3 days a week, and having 2 part-time employees do most of the work, I like that. You don't need a degree to do it. There's no special education, aside from some certifications, some licenses, and insurance to do everything legit. It's not a huge barrier of entry, other than a lot of people who just don't know how to do it. And what was going to be my 5th reason, probably one of the ones I should have started with, but it's a growing industry, right? There's only more people going this route. Before this whole event happened, more and more people were going this route. As they became aware of it and knew more people who were on meal prep companies and knew that it wasn't necessarily just fitness food. It wasn't necessarily like a TV dinner like they were expecting. It wasn't necessarily frozen food. While all of those models do exist, the people who weren't interested in that stuff before, or weren't aware that the model existed, they're only going to become more aware of it. There's only more people who are on these services. It's only becoming more normalized. I always say people are only getting busier and lazier. Is that not true? They want the time to go to the gym, but they also want to be able to binge Netflix. Well, what do you think is going to be a growing trend? It's going to be convenience-based services. What's more convenient than a meal prep business? Tell me, what can save you more time than a meal prep business? The average person spends 8 to 9 hours a week buying and preparing, cleaning up after their meals. If I can save you 8 to 9 hours a week, or if I could save an attorney 8 to 9 hours a week, I love attorneys because they know how much their hour is worth. How much is that worth to them? Well, I know attorneys who bill $4.50 an hour. So if you tell an attorney that you could save them an hour a week, that just paid for the whole week's worth of food, right? Now, even someone who's only making, it doesn't matter. Time is not always reflective of what you charge for your time either. The time that you're getting paid to, be at work versus the hour with your children, I would bet you'd argue that hour with your children is a more valuable hour. It'd probably take me more money to buy that hour away from you, that for me to buy an hour of personal time that you don't get to spend with your children. It's probably worth a lot more than what you're willing to take to work all day, right? People realize that, and they're only becoming more and more conscious of work-life balances and figuring out where they can squeeze a little bit more into the 24 hours they have. This is the single most effective way to do that. Aside from outsourcing sleep, how else are you going to save 8 hours? You save 8 hours a night if you're able to outsource sleep. You figure that out, reach out to me. We'll go into business together. I'd love to help people outsource sleep. But until then, food is the most time-consuming thing that you have to do several times a day, every single day, right? There's nothing else. Even your commute probably doesn't take up that much time. It may, but again, I can't outsource your commute unless you outsource your own job. In any case, those are my somewhere between 5 and a million, top 5 to a million reasons to start a meal prep business. And if you have any interest in doing so, maybe you're already on your way, check out my other content. Check out my website, mealprepbiz101.com. I've got a free private group. I've got a paid private group, and that's for the meal prep people who are on their journey, and we kind of talk just meal prep stuff. Less noobs in there. It's more experienced people. Great resource for getting questions answered and also getting exposure to questions you probably haven't even thought of. So I highly recommend that. I also do consulting by the hour, but I give you so much free content, honestly. A lot of times you probably won't even need the consulting. I've got free software that will basically run the entire company for you. Check out my other videos on that. I do some walkthroughs. It is the most advanced software I've ever seen for this industry. And most softwares for this industry, actually all the other softwares I've seen for this industry, I've heard bad things about them. They say that they have great things. I've heard bad things from the people in the private group, but this software is absolutely amazing. And what's beautiful is it's actually working. We don't have to hope and promise that it's working. Check out the videos, check out the walkthroughs. Reach out to me if you're interested in getting signed up or getting a demo of that sent to you. And check out the site. There's a ton more. I've got boot camps. I've got an ebook, the software. I forget. There's so much stuff I forget. But definitely check it out. If you watch the video this long, you're obviously interested in the meal prep game, and I would love to help you learn to grow your business, to grow as an individual, and to grow as an entrepreneur. Normally I say that in a different order, but you get the gist. Links, likes, subscribe, alerts, website, all that fun stuff. Have an awesome day. Be safe.